and I again plead guilty to both. I'm an idealist. I hope I'm not that naive, though. Certainly an idealist. But there are a lot of countries that have become peaceful, and an Australian philanthropist named Steve Killalay does a lot of really important development work around the world, in the poorest of the poor countries of the world, and he saw that all too often, where he'd have a help project going or an education program getting started, that along would come a civil war and just wipe out all the projects, all the progress, and he'd say, well, I'm wasting my money on development unless we can get a handle on violent conflicts. But instead of asking the question that most people do of asking, how can we deal with the violent conflicts, he raised a very interesting question. He said, what about the peaceful places? And who are they, and how did they get that way? It's sort of like the difference in the healthcare system in studying the pathology of disease and studying wellness. Yes, you have to study the pathology of disease. You have to study cancer and figure out how to prevent it and how to cure it. But what about people who never get cancer? What is it about them that makes it possible for them to not get cancer? So we're studying wellness. And what Steve wanted to study was peacefulness. Where are the peaceful countries, and what can we learn from them? And he then commissioned the Economist Intelligence Unit. This is the branch of the Economist magazine that does research and analysis. There is no more credible source of research and analysis in the entire world than the Economist Intelligence Unit. They did the analysis, and this is what they came up with. Had a team of experts come up with a criteria and came up with a ranking of the countries from the most peaceful to the least peaceful. The bluer the color, the more peaceful. The redder the color, the less peaceful in this particular map. And so we now have, for the first time ever, a ranking of the countries based on peacefulness. We rank countries on basis of GNP and on their environmental quality and everything you can possibly imagine. Now we actually have a ranking of the countries based on their peacefulness. And here's the top 40, and I think it's kind of a neat thing to be in the top 40. I would like to think that every country in the world would look at this and say, next time, if they're not there now, say, next time there's an analysis done, I want my country to be in the top 40, among the 40 most peaceful nations in the United States. You might notice that our country is not in the top 40. In fact, we're not close, and you have to acknowledge when you're fighting two wars, it's pretty hard to be ranked in the top most peaceful countries in the world. But we're not saying this is precise. Iceland came in number one. It's not saying it's absolutely Iceland is number one, but if you look at that grouping, these are the countries that have done a remarkable job of becoming more peaceful, certainly, than others that would be compared with them. Now, using this, I mentioned Harriet Fulbright and showed her picture at the Rotary headquarters. Harriet and I looked at this list and said, what can we do with this to give it even more traction, even more meaning, so that people will pay attention to it and learn from it? And we came up with a concept of producing a global symposium of peaceful nations in which you bring together the most peaceful countries in the world at one time in one place, and you honor them, number one. That's a pretty important thing. It was mentioned that I've been involved with the Olympics. I aspire to be an Olympic champion. Didn't get close. You did too, and neither one of us came close, but we sure tried. But being an Olympic champion is great, but how about being a gold medal peaceful nation? Wouldn't that be even better? Think about that. So let's honor the countries that have become the most peaceful. And if you take it, just the top 10, they're mostly Scandinavian countries. So that wouldn't really relate to the rest of the world. What Harriet and I want to